Hello, I'm Tim, the Suburban Dad. I'm on a quest to help dads find great bourbon. Today I want to talk to you about the most ideal bourbon for me, which is high proof, cask strength, barrel proof, the hot stuff. Here's why. Let's get to it. If you're newer to bourbon, or even if you've been around bourbon a while, some of you might prefer low proof stuff. It's smooth, it's easy to drink, right? And yeah, it is. 80 proof, there's really no burn to that if you have any experience drinking whiskey at all. The thing with higher proof bourbon is that is where the flavor is. If you do any sort of cooking, you can think of a pot of soup. You add all your ingredients together, you're boiling it, you're simmering it. The longer you boil and simmer it, the more concentrated and intense those flavors are going to be. Now, when it comes to bourbon, this partly depends on how long a bourbon has been aged, or at least how much interaction with the wood that bourbon has. So the longer bourbon ages, typically the higher proof it gets because more water is leached out of the distillate. The water leaches out and the alcohol remains, and it gets higher and higher proof, typically. So over time, that whiskey, the older it gets, the higher proof it's gonna get, the more flavor it's gonna have. Now, you could have a young whiskey that's high proof that doesn't have as much flavor. That's true. But that high proof young whiskey is going to have a lot more flavor than a low proof young whiskey, if that makes sense. So just to be clear, comparing apples to apples, age is a factor. Also, the proof of the bourbon is a factor as well. For now, I'm just going to focus on the proof. So back to our soup analogy. The longer you boil it, the more you simmer it down, it evaporates water off. That becomes more concentrated, more flavorful. Same thing with the bourbon. The less water you have in there, the more you're going to experience the richness and the flavor of the whiskey itself. So in terms of aging, it is the interaction with the wood, the distillate with the wood, that makes it more flavorful. What's interesting is in hotter climates, more volatile climates like Texas, that process happens way faster. So if you take a bourbon and age it for, let's say, 3 years in Texas versus 3 years in Kentucky, that Texas whiskey is going to be way more rich and full of flavor and probably higher proof than that 3-year-old Kentucky whiskey, simply because of the climate and the interaction with that wood. The higher the temperature swing, high to low, the more that whiskey is going to be pushed into the wood and pulled back out. That's where all that flavor comes from, is from the interaction with the charred wood. Also a time to plug Texas whiskey. I'm still waiting for Balcones to partner with me because I talk about them enough. I should just be an ambassador for them by now. Their stuff is so amazing. They don't even have to age it very long, 2-3 years typically, and you get such rich, flavorful, viscous whiskey from them. It's fantastic. It's way more efficient than time-wise than Kentucky. They probably have a lot more that they lose to the Angel share, but it's a lot quicker of a process for a very delicious product. There's terms out there: barrel proof, cask strength, full proof, all kinds of buzzwords like that. Unfortunately, none of them have real official meanings, especially full proof or barrel proof, because those can just be high proof bourbons that have been watered down but are still fairly high proof, like Weller Full Proof does this, and Knob Creek with their single barrel reserve. It's 120 proof, it's high proof, but it's not straight from the barrel proof. You get me? I don't know of any time where I've had a bourbon where I've tried the cask strength or barrel proof version compared to the proofed down version, let's say 90 proof, where that higher proof version was not better. I mean, it's better. That's where the flavor is. Now, The biggest hang-up I see people facing with this is, oh, I can't drink that stuff, it burns, I just cough and I can't enjoy it. I get that. I hear you. I hear you. You can build up your tolerance to proof. Now, if you enjoy the lower proof stuff and you're totally fine with that, good for you. I would challenge you, though, to try and push your limit a little bit and see, can you, in fact, start to enjoy something a little higher proof? I always enjoy trying high proof bourbon neat first, just to get a sense. Maybe I'll like it as is. Sometimes it is a little too much. It is a little too intense, and I'll add a drop or two or three of water. What is that doing? It's lowering the proof. That is where the flavor is. It's not always 100% ideal to be at that full proof level. However, when you're proofing it down with just a drop or two of water, it's still going to be higher proof than, say, 80, 90, even sometimes 100 proof. So my main takeaway is this. Especially if you haven't dived into higher proof bourbons and whiskeys so far, you really, really ought to try it. You can unlock a whole new world of flavor that's really going to enhance your whiskey experience. So that's my plug for today. I'm always looking out for you guys to find the good stuff. That doesn't mean all the unicorns and hard to get bottles, but I'm here to help you find the good stuff that you can actually find and actually buy at a reasonable price. Look for some barrel proof, high proof whiskeys. Give it a try. Until next time,